Door swings, warm lights, white gloves. I step in dressed like a rumor-wrinkled dress, canvas bag, hair dragged into a tired knot. Their eyes do the math before their mouths say hello. Veronica checks her watch as if my minutes are borrowed. Franklin polishes a cufflink that gleams like a warning. Good. Let them think I'm cheap. Tonight, I'm running an audit, not of prices of people. I want to know how they treat a woman who looks like she can't afford the breadbasket. If they fail, the bill will be brutal, and they won't see it coming. I won't raise my voice. I won't touch a drop of their $200 wine. I'll just watch them spend their manners in small, cruel installments until the account they're sure of suddenly declines. I have a number big enough to silence this room, but I prefer another currency silence first. Truth later, the first course hasn't arrived, and already the test has. Sunlight slips through thin curtains like an uninvited auditor. My table is chipped, my kettle wheezes, my 2 mugs don't match, and none of it asks me to perform. I make coffee the way I make decisions black. Quiet, decisive. People think money screams, mine doesn't. It hums, out of sight. I learned early that wealth on display attracts the wrong eyes and the wrong hungers. So I collected a different status symbol, silence. Silence let Marcus grow up without the itch of entitlement. Silence kept relatives from turning holidays into loan applications. Silence taught me where noise ends and power begins. I fold laundry by the window, watch buses exhale at the corner, and breathe with them. You'd call this minimal. I call it margin space to think, to choose, to walk away. If a wall is blank, it means I owe no one an explanation. If a shelf is empty, it means I'm not for sale. I remember the bulb that buzzed like a fly in my rented room. The carpet smelled like tired rain, the window stuck half open. The hinge rusted into a permanent sigh. I learned Excel from a library computer that timed out every 45 minutes. I learned English from a stranger's patience and a stack of dog-eared grammar books. Lunch was coupon soup, dinner was determination, while other people curated lives. I stapled mine together secretary, then assistant, then the next rung by force of stubbornness. I took meetings no one wanted and solved problems that smelled like smoke. When Marcus was a baby, I studied with him asleep on my chest, his breath anchoring me to a future I hadn't earned yet. Promotions came slower than insults, but I banked both the first as money, the second as fuel. On the night shift of my 20s, I figured out the trick: you don't chase doors, you become the person doors unlock for. At 5:20 a.m., I move like a rumor the city forgot to doubt. Streetlights yawn out, the bus grinds up, kneels, opens its mouth, I step in, my canvas bag soft as history on my shoulder. Inside are simple things: a notebook, a pen, a sandwich, a set of choices I'll never apologize for. People pay too much for armor labels, gloss, noise. Simplicity is better armor. It doesn't dent. It doesn't beg for applause. It lets me hear the room before the room hears me. At the office, I'm the woman who knows where the fire exits are literal and political. My calendar is a city grid. My decisions move like traffic lights. When chaos arrives dressed as urgency, I offer it a chair and make it wait. Minimalism is not denial, it's discipline. It's refusing to outsource your worth to objects with receipts. I carry the same bag because it carries me back to a self no trophy can upgrade. The phone vibrates against the counter, a small heartbeat pretending it's not nervous. "Hey, Mom," he says, and the air thins a little. He talks fast, the way he did when he broke things as a boy, words tumbling. Careful not to cut himself. His in-laws are visiting. There's dinner, a nice place. It would mean a lot if you came. Then the hesitation like he's approaching a skittish animal. I told them you're simple. You know, you don't spend. I stir nothing into my coffee. I hear the fear underneath, not fear of me, but of me colliding with their performance. He's a good man. Good men still inherit bad anxieties. I tell him yes. Of course. We hang up, and I hold the quiet up to the light. What do you do when your child tries to sand down your edges to fit someone else's furniture? You keep the edge, you bring it to dinner, you cut the truth clean. Vengeance is loud, gaudy, easy. This won't be that. I'm not out to hurt them. I'm out to see them. I want evidence, not drama. So I design a simple experiment appear poor. Measure kindness, no speech, no scandal, just observation. Like a mirror with legs, if they are generous to someone who can't advertise value. They pass, if they perform kindness for status points. The tip will be expensive, my silence permanently withdrawn. The stakes are private but real. Marcus thinks he's asking me to behave. Really, he's given me permission to reveal. I will not perform poverty. I will simulate invisibility, the status they assign to anyone who doesn't shine on contact. The rules are straightforward. Say less, notice more. Record what their eyes do before their mouths move. People will tell you their values if you let them believe you have none. I don't need a courtroom, a table, a menu, and a clock will do. I open the closet and select discomfort on purpose. Wrinkled dress the color of an apology people don't mean. Shoes with the shine walked off years ago. No jewelry except the ring of my keys. Hair pulled back quick, not careless. The difference is in what you're willing to lose. I trade the leather handbag for the canvas bag, that old confidant that never asks for applause. In the mirror, I fade myself the edges, the mystery, the hints of power. It's remarkable how easy it is to erase status when you stop feeding it. I practice a smaller smile, the polite kind that never reaches my eyes. Hands folded, shoulders slightly rounded, voice prepared to be interrupted. Not meek neutral. The outfit isn't disguise, it's consent, temporary and selective. I'm offering them a choice, treat me as less, and watch who becomes smaller. Every costume asks a price. Tonight, mine asks only for clarity. I'll pay in poise. The cab smells like lemon and old radio songs. Buildings sharpen into glass pronouns, I, me, mine. Every boutique window is a sermon about salvation you can purchase on installment. My driver, a man with a map in his face, checks me in the mirror once and decides I won't bite. We roll past curated doors, curated dogs, curated lives. I watch, and a split confession rises half of me. Hopes I'm being unfair. Maybe they're kind, maybe I'm rehearsing a fight no one invited me to. The other half remembers how cruelty comes dressed in cashmere and good grammar. I have sat at tables where manners performed surgery on dignity and called it etiquette. Money doesn't make villains, it just turns their microphones up. The meter clicks, I count the beats of my breath. This isn't a showdown, it's a listening. When we turn onto the restaurant street, the pavement changes tone as if even asphalt knows when to bow. The doorman opens the door like he's unveiling a secret. Inside, light pours over gold like it's rehearsed. Softer music, softer voices, knives that smile too much. A hostess glances at my dress and adjusts her welcome by a degree you'd need a thermometer to catch. I catalog it the temperature drop reserved for people they suspect won't tip the way stories end. I breathe once, twice, like a diver negotiating pressure. Crossing a threshold is simple physics until you realize the room believes the door is a filter. I tell my posture to ignore the signage. My name is on the reservation's Ghost Marcus plus family. Family is a word that looks better on paper. The hostess asks, "Are we expecting anyone else?" I smile, just the truth. She blinks, we move. Every step is a note in a song I don't intend to dance to. I am not dazzled. I am taking inventory. The test begins at hello. Marcus stands by the window, suit too careful, smile too tired. Simone looks perfect in a way that says practice, not peace, then Veronica sequins arranged like a threat. Franklin watch large enough to track tides. They see me, and the silent arithmetic begins. Their eyes touch my hem before they find my face. No one pulls a chair, No one asks if I need water. Fine, the hierarchy has checked in. Table for 4 and 1 lesson. I kiss Simone's cheek. Her skin tightens. Veronica offers a hand the temperature of a closed door. Franklin's smile is constituted of percentages. Marcus's jaw shifts. His apology arrives without words. I sit at the edge of their comfort and let them set the terms. People reveal themselves quickly when they believe you can't afford to leave. I fold my napkin, smaller, then smaller again, making space out of fabric. My voice chooses quiet. My eyes clock everything they spend without thinking. They've arranged the table like a map of importance, and I am parked at the edge of the country. My chair waits unpulled while fabric whispers and silverware preens. I lower myself without help and note the tilt of Veronica's chin. The way Franklin's attention grazes me like a tax he detests. Manners are suddenly a la carte. Marcus hovers, guilt blinking behind his eyes, then sits when Veronica's glance summons him. I smooth my napkin and measure the room's temperature drop. It's funny how hospitality can curdle in a second. I am not a guest. I am a variable. That's fine. Variables move stories forward. The waiter pours water, like forgiveness. I thank him because somebody should be thanked tonight. Across the table, Simone rearranges her fork, as if a different geometry might save us. The opening move is complete the chair, the absence of hands, the quiet invoice of disrespect. I log it without comment. The experiment continues. The menu arrives with vowels soft as velvet and prices that hide like timid deer. I let my eyes slow down, tracing syllables as if they're taller than me. Veronica's smile arrives in halves, polite up top, impatient underneath. "Would you like help?" she asks, like handing a child a crayon. I tilt my head, innocent as fog. Maybe. I'm not familiar. The relief is immediate. They prefer this version. Franklin clears his throat and names dishes like medals. Simone watches the typography more than my face. I ask a small question about sauces and watch Veronica enjoy the scholarship of being right. "You'll want something simple," she concludes, a kindness pressed flat. The waiter nods, pen pausing over my budgeted dignity. I give him a small smile that says, "I see you trying to treat me like a person." He blushes, a tiny rebellion. Around us, cutlery murmurs in a dialect of status. I translate performance, measured. Veronica orders for me with the piety of someone donating a used coat. Something simple, she tells the waiter. The phrase landing on my plate before the food does. It's not advice, it's a tie. It's taxonomy. Simple as in affordable. Simple as in unthreatening. Simple as in unworthy of celebration. I nod, because nodding is cheaper than arguing and more expensive than it looks. Franklin lifts his menu like a shield and announces a steak that arrives with a story. Simone opts for elegance that photographs well. Marcus orders quickly, like he's apologizing to the chef. I'm still thinking about the word simple. The best things in my life are simple coffee, sleep, a call that doesn't ask for anything. The worst simplifications are written on faces, not menus. When people can't place you, they price you. Simple is the sticker they use when the scanner won't read your barcode. I tear bread with deliberate ease and let them ring themselves up. The $1,000 a night flex conversation climbs into altitude where oxygen is money. Veronica mentions their hotel first. "It's quaint," she says, "code for curated. About $1,000 a night." She waits for awe the way a stage waits for applause. I sip water and let the number evaporate. Franklin contributes the car, a rental that performs more horsepower than anyone needs to digest dinner. They speak like tour guides who've memorized the brochure and forgot the view. I've traveled to a bus line at 5 a.m., a library open late, a grocery aisle where math decides your week. You can turn any experience into a weapon if you swing it at the right heads. I admire travel when it rearranges your heart. I ignore it when it auditions for superiority. Marcus tries to pivot to weather. Veronica pivots back to luxury like a ballerina who bills by the turn. I hold my fork steady, not because I'm impressed, because I'm measuring the wind. The bottle arrives with its own ceremony, a liquid biography. Franklin sniffs, swirls, nods, and narrates terroir, notes of confidence, hints of inheritance. Veronica smiles like a vineyard. I decline a pour with gratitude calibrated carefully. I don't drink much, I say. Cheap palate. The phrase interests them. Franklin enjoys it the way a cat enjoys a cornered string. He describes tastings in 3 continents. The education of tongues. Simone adds a sentence about learning. I become a shore where their sophistication can break itself gently. It's educational, truly. People love to audition expertise when they believe the audience will never take the stage. I ask one question about tannins, the way a student earns a gold star. Veronica beams. The waiter fills their glasses and leaves mine alone. An island of unspent suggestion. The smell is rich, the silence is richer. Some nights you drink wine, other nights you let someone else get drunk on themselves. It lands politely, the way a trap is baited with fruit. And what do? Veronica asks, tilt of head preloaded with mercy. I put my hands around the stem of my water glass like it's winter. Office work, I say. Paper, filings, little things. The relief is physical. The table exhales. Category achieved. Misfiled power corrected, Franklin says. Administrative honest work. Honest is a word rich people use when they need to bless poverty while keeping the receipt. Simone offers a smile, thin as tracing paper. Marcus looks at his plate, a geography of guilt. I ask Veronica what she does. We invest, she says, though we busy with other people's hands, properties, assets, oversight. I nod as if gravity needs my help. We are not lying. We are curating. The difference is in who benefits. When she asks if I like my job, I say yes, because I like what it bought that no one can see choices. They inventory Simone's education like listing patents elite schools. Summer programs with glossy brochures. Languages unearthed from other people's countries. It's impressive and oddly brittle. I clap with my eyebrows. Franklin recalls a professor whose last name costs extra. Veronica names cities the way hunters name trophies. I have no quarrel with degrees. I quarrel with what they sometimes teach, that correctness outranks compassion. I've met men who knew 5 languages and forgot how to say sorry in any of them. I've watched passports fatten while empathy starved. Travel shapes you, Veronica declares. I agree. It shapes you into what you already worship. If it's status, you become sharper, shinier, emptier. If it's people, you become softer, stronger, truer. I take a breath and ask Simone about something small, her favorite cheap meal. She laughs, surprised, names a dish her mother would never post. For a second, I see her unpackaged, possible. Then the lid closes. The generosity memoir continues. Tutors, camps, a piano that cost a car. The list glitters like a chandelier. The light warms no one. Veronica pauses to check our admiration. I give her the courtesy of eye contact and keep my soul seated. We've always given Simone the best, she says, and the word best looks lonely. Marcus straightens, loyal to his wife, disloyal to hypocrisy. Simone's smile is the careful kind, gratitude as performance is exhausting cardio. I think of the things I couldn't buy Marcus fatherhood in a box. Certainty on demand, a world that never points and counts. What I did buy was time hours 2 and 3, after bedtime for homework. Decades of quiet that didn't ask him to be anyone but himself. Their love is expensive and conditional, like a museum with guards. Mine is practical and indestructible like a coat in winter. Different currencies, different markets. Only one holds value in a storm. Numbers arrive with ribbons 40,000 for the house's first step. 15 for a tour of Europe that remembers itself. Veronica examines my face like a stock ticker. I give her steady. When you love your children, you don't hold back, she says, auditioning for sainthood. I nod. Love spends. But I also know what money asks for when it returns access, influence, the right to edit your life. Gifts can be leashes when the bow's too tight. Franklin relaxes into his chair, the king whose taxes purchase loyalty. Simone smooths her napkin into obedience. Marcus's hands argue with each other in his lap. I repeat the numbers in my head the way a surgeon counts sponges. Not to keep score, to understand the incision. Investments, they call them. The dividends are obedience. Holiday schedules. Grandchildren named by committee. I sip water and taste iron. In certain families, generosity is just control wearing perfume. There's a temperature to shame 3 degrees colder than the rest of the room. I feel it coming off Marcus in careful waves. He squeezes his jaw like it owes him rent. He loves Simone. He also loves not being embarrassed. Those loves have never met each other in public until now. Simone studies the linen, as if a different fold might exit us from this scene. I remember being young and fluent in avoidance. I let them both be human. I do not rescue the moment. Rescue would teach the wrong lesson that discomfort is fatal. It isn't. It's diagnostic. Franklin narrates the wine again. Veronica sketches a future where their help keeps arriving like weather. I catalog the forecast pressure rising, visibility poor. When the waiter asks if we're enjoying everything, Marcus says yes too quickly. I take a slow breath that belongs to me. The best thing you can offer your child sometimes is not relief, but clarity. The question wears concern, like borrowed clothing. Is it hard, Veronica asks, living alone at your age? On, a limited salary. The syntax smiles, the blade is clean. I tilt my head, feel the weight of 1,000 women shrink under that sentence. I manage, I say, it's true. I manage budgets that could float a small city. I also manage the arithmetic of quiet, the cost of keeping your dignity where eyes can't invoice it. Hard isn't the rent. Hard is being framed as a liability in your own child's life before you've even ordered dinner. Franklin adds a noise that thinks it's sympathy. Simone flinches like someone hearing their mirror speak. Marcus clears his throat and drowns in it. I place my glass down with surgical care. If I respond in kind, I become what they're hoping to fight. If I respond in grace, I become the math they can't solve. I choose grace. Veronica leans in with that philanthropic tilt. I admire women who struggle alone, she says, and the sentence wears heels. Admiration as display piece, the kind that never chips a nail. All work is dignified, Franklin adds, an absolution that presumes a sin. I collect their words like dull coins. I know the type praise that keeps you small. Bouquets that smell like instructions. You did the best you could, she continues. And there it is, the museum plaque under my life. I smile the kind of smile that doesn't rise to the eyes. We all do, I say. She nods, pleased with the choreography. Compliments can be cages when the door is the size of your past. I let the moment rest on the table until it recognizes its own weight. Marcus shifts. Simone's mouth opens, then thinks better of it. Spoons clink porcelain like polite applause. Somewhere in the kitchen, a chef salts something that deserves better. This is the part where people explain themselves into conviction. I give them rope, and they knit a sweater. Veronica compares, Franklin categorizes, Simone calibrates. Marcus collapses by degrees. I ask almost nothing. Questions are calories. I'm fasting. The silence I hold is not surrender, it's surveillance. Every microcut, every sugar-coated demotion, every eyebrow doing arithmetic, logged. I'm not angry. Anger would be a gift to them. Evidence that I'm fragile where they poked. I'm interested. Interest is a ledger that never forgets. When the waiter offers bread, I accept with gratitude audible enough for the next table to catch. His smile is small and brave. Kindness begets witness. I think of all the nights I've been helped like a problem. I have learned to be unfixable, not because I'm perfect, because I'm not merchandise. The urge to defend myself passes through me like weather. And I let it. Forecast clarity approaching. Pressure steady. A plate arrives looking like wealth and drag a thumbnail of cake wearing a crown of edible metal. Veronica calls it exquisite. Franklin calls it necessary. I admire the craft. Sugar is an honest worker. The gold, though gold is theater. It tastes like nothing but attention. I order something humble on purpose and find joy exactly where they expect none. Across from me, Simone studies the gold leaf as if it can explain her mother. It can't. Luxury can be art. It can also be camouflage. If you need to gild your sweetness, maybe it's not sweet. Marcus doesn't touch his dessert. Appetite is a democracy, and his vote tonight is abstain. I tap my fork once. A quiet gavel. We have reached the part of the story where glitter tries to pass for glow. In low light, people confuse them. I don't. Glow warms. Glitter brags. I finish my plate and thank the pastry chef in my heart. There's a sound good rooms make before truth enters a hush that knows its posture. I feel it now. Veronica is polishing her concern for a final flourish. Franklin is assembling a sentence that bills by the syllable. Simone's hands knot and unknot, threading apology to no one. Marcus stares at a point on the table where his childhood might still be sitting. I place my napkin down, a white flag that isn't surrender. Time to ask the question they paved this whole evening to avoid. If you had to put a price on my absence from my son's life, I say gently, what would it be? The sentence finds their throats like a mirror, finds a liar. No need to raise my voice. Arithmetic loves quiet. The table forgets how to breathe. I remember. The waiter appears, retreats, reads the weather. In the pause, the room reveals itself walls, windows, intentions. I keep my hands still. The experiment is ready for results. Veronica folds her voice into velvet. We could help, she says, a small allowance, modest. I don't blink. How much buys my absence? The table startles at the clean edge of it. She glances at Franklin, then names the number like a tip she regrets 700. A month. The waiter could breathe on that, and it would vanish. I nod as if we're discussing weather. Inside, a ledger clicks to a new page. 700 for silence. 700 for fewer calls. 700 for no unexpected visits. No holidays rearranged by love. I repeat it back the way surgeons repeat doses. 700. Franklin adds language about dignity, about not wanting Marcus to worry. The euphemism is neat. The math is ugly. People don't bribe problems they respect. They pay to move them. I've been called many things. A burden is a new flavor. I taste it once, spit it into the napkin of my mind, and set it down. 700 has a sound tin against marble. I roll it in my mouth, then compare it to tonight's flexes 1,000 per night to sleep, 200 to rinse pride and tannins, desserts wearing jewelry, I say, softly, so a mother is less than your wine. Veronica flinches like I pinched the hem of her sentence. Franklin clears his throat into a sermon about practicalities, about budgeting care. The arithmetic is naked now, by peace. Least distance, invoice gratitude. Simone whispers my name, a soft warning to herself. Marcus's hand tightens around the knife he doesn't need. I keep my voice on low flame. Thank you for the honesty. Price tags tell the truth even when people don't. Veronica insists the number was chosen with kindness. Of course it was. All cages claim to be comfortable. I mark the figure in my invisible notebook and circle it twice. When love meets math, the receipt always glows. Tonight, it burns. They offer the word stability, like a vitamin I should swallow without water. For the marriage, Veronica says. For Simone's peace of mind, Franklin nods. Boundaries keep families strong. I admire the craft. Control dressed as care always fits so well. Stability, I repeat, as if trying it on. Do you mean calm or compliance? Silence chooses the chair beside Franklin. He pretends not to notice. Simone's breath hitches. The air between us is thin. We just want things to go smoothly. Veronica tries again. Smooth is a word you use when you have steamrollers. Marriage needs spine more than smooth. I do not say it. I watch how the table rearranges itself around their favorite myth that money prevents storms. It doesn't. It only buys better umbrellas for the people holding the handles. Marcus speaks my name. Veronica tethers him with a look. I lift my water, sip the weather, and set it down exactly where gravity expects. Numbers like trophies parade across the cloth. 40 for the down payment, 15 for Europe's curated sunsets. We invest in our children, Veronica says, gathering virtue into a bouquet she hands to herself. I nod as if counting petals. 55, I summarize, a good portfolio. She brightens, relieved to be understood on her favorite frequency. When you love your daughter, you don't hold back. Love is not the same as leverage, but leverage loves the confusion. And what did that buy, I ask? Light as lace, respect or obedience? Franklin frowns. Gratitude, he corrects. Gratitude with terms is a mortgage. Simone grips her napkin like a raft. Marcus stares into the water of his glass as if it can drown him. I lean back. Money can purchase quiet. It cannot purchase reverence. It can rent appearances. It cannot own a heart. The words land where their math can't go. Veronica's smile misfires. The gold on her wrist weighs suddenly more. Franklin's tone chooses diplomacy with a spine. I think you misunderstand our intentions. I hold his gaze. The way you hold a door and decide whether to let it close. I've been alive long enough to understand what certain words do. I say, help can mean charity. It often means control. Support can mean love. It often means surveillance. He sits back, measuring the edges of my calm. We're offering relief, he tries. Relief from what? Exactly me. The poverty they painted on me, the imagined headlines of a mother who won't match their decor. Veronica inhales to soften the room. We only want what's best. Best is a compass that spins in expensive hands. I lay my fork down like punctuation. Then let's be precise. Best for whom, Simone Marcus? Or your reputation as generous curators of other people's lives? The waiter appears, reads the temperature, and vanishes. Franklin taps the table once. He hears me. He doesn't like the alphabet. Marcus leans in. Mom. Maybe a look from Veronica slices his sentence into compliance. My son has always been a peacemaker, and peacekeepers sometimes forget where their own borders are. I lay a hand, palm down, on the linen. Marcus, I say, soft enough to cushion, firm enough to stand. Let me speak. He nods, cheeks coloring with the guilt of good men. This, right here, is the line, not drawn in anger, but in ink that doesn't fade in dishwater. I am not auditioning for acceptance. I am clarifying terms. I will not be managed, not by insults wrapped in compliments, not by allowances disguised as mercy. Veronica's lips part, surprise flickering like a candle that realizes the room is windy. Simone watches me as if I've just remembered my own name out loud. Maybe I have. Boundaries are not walls, they're doors with locks. I just heard the click inside myself. It's not loud, it's permanent. They deserve context, not as an apology, as a mirror. I tell them about fluorescent lights that buzzed like skepticism, about the night library that loved me more than sleep did, secretarial paychecks that counted pennies with attitude, the ladder I climbed without witness's assistant, coordinator, manager, director, each title stitched with the thread of 100 invisible choices. I carried Marcus on one hip and policy manuals on the other. I learned to pronounce budget like promise and crisis like calendar invite. I outlasted men who mistook volume for vision. I became the person doors stopped resisting. Every raise arrived with a lesson: do not decorate your worth, deposit it. Do not wait for credit, become too useful to ignore. Do not announce power, let outcomes do the talking. By the time Sunrise and I were on a first-name basis, the view had changed. Not the furniture, the altitude. I paid for it in nights. I kept the receipt in my spine. Money is a tool, I say, not a costume. Franklin's jaw tightens. Veronica considers the wardrobe of her words. Tools build. I continue, or pry, or repair. Costumes perform. I prefer what works over what wows. My wealth lives where cameras don't, in options, in exits, in the right to say no without a 20-minute speech. I don't present it because presentation invites appraisal. And appraisal invites theft of privacy, of ease, of truth. I taught Marcus to value outcomes, not optics. I add, that's why I don't wear my balance on my wrist. Veronica glances at her watch as if it might argue. Simone's face softens into something like relief. The rules are simple and seldom followed: pay first. Praise last, borrow rarely, return always, give quietly, receive slowly, count blessings before banknotes. I won't worship money, but I will command it. It obeys better when it stops being your mirror. It's never been mine. If money defined me, I'd be in sequins tonight. My shoes would click a thesis statement on this marble. My handbag would introduce itself before I spoke. Instead, I am in the wardrobe of truth clothes that don't argue, colors that don't petition, fabric that doesn't beg for better company. If money named me, I say, we wouldn't be having this conversation. You'd already know who to fear. Veronica blinks, unsure whether she's being warned or educated. Franklin checks a message that isn't there. I let the implication breathe. I am not hinting at riches to win. I am bearing a principle to measure them. When people require spectacle to recognize worth, they will always underpay character. I prefer the economics of understatement, not coyness strategy. The lighting in this room flatters the gold leaf on the dessert. It doesn't flatter conscience. I tuck a stray hair behind my ear, the smallest backstage note before the curtain moves. We arrive at the soft cliff before the fall. The air stills. The room strains to hear its own reputation. Marcus looks like a man on a bridge he built and doesn't trust. Simone's mouth forms a question it won't house. Veronica arranges her face into management. Franklin polishes silence. I look at each of them, the way you look at a portrait, and finally find the painter. Not the paint. Here's my answer. I say, tone low, exact. No to the allowance. No to the leash disguised as a ribbon. No to the math that shrinks me so your comfort can grow. I don't escalate. I align. From this minute on, we deal in truth, not optics, not invoices labeled love, truth. The word settles like a key, finding its lock. Somewhere behind me, a bottle exhales. I straighten my napkin's edge. The next step is a drop and a flight at once. I take it. I let the sentence arrive without makeup. I earn $40,000 a month. I say, and I've done so for almost 20 years. No flourish, no trumpet. Just air shaped into numbers. The room does the arithmetic before it breathes. Veronica's pupils contract, the way eyes do when walking from stage lights into daylight. Franklin's posture forgets its script. Simone blinks as if I've switched the channel without warning. Marcus looks at me like he's relearning a language he thought he spoke. I don't explain. Explaining is a tax the powerful rarely pay. I add nothing about bonuses, stock, or what compound interest does when you treat it like a colleague. I don't mention the decades my calendar taught itself endurance. The number sits between us like a mirror that refuses to flatter. I am not auditioning for their respect. I'm auditing their assumptions. Money is not the point. The point is their measurement system. I just broke their ruler. Silence descends like velvet thrown over a cage. It's soft, but you can hear the bars. Forks freeze midair. Even the chandeliers seem to reconsider their sparkle. For a beat, everyone's knife points inward. The evening's math flips. I am no longer the liability they rehearsed. Veronica's smile tries to reboot and fails, jittering at the edges like bad neon. Franklin's jaw chooses stillness as a strategy. Simone exhales a yes. She did, you can barely hear. Marcus covers his mouth, half shocked, half proud, wholly rearranged. I don't fill the pause. I let it work. Pauses are tools. They sand lies until the truth shows grain. The waiter approaches, senses the temperature, and retreats with the grace of someone who's learned to survive rooms like this. You should have said, Veronica attempts, and the sentence limps. I tilt my head. We both know that if I had said, they would have curated a different mask. Tonight is about unmasking. I don't raise my voice. I widen the frame. Regional Director of Operations. I say, 5 countries. Budgets with more zeros than patience. 10,000 employees whose names matter to me more than these chandeliers. I don't list the contracts I've signed, or the fires I've walked into carrying water and walked out carrying plans. I let the outline stand, not boast. Context, Franklin adjusts his cuff like it's also a resume. That's significant, he manages, his tone auditioning for neutrality. Veronica swallows the word impressive and chokes on inconvenient. Simone looks at me like someone noticing a lighthouse wasn't decorative. Marcus blinks hard, and I see 12-year-old him flash behind his eyes science fair. Last-minute glue, my midnight pep talk. Power doesn't need volume, it needs stewardship. My work, I add, isn't a costume I wear to dinner. It's a promise I cash in for other people's livelihoods. The room hears promise. The room has never learned that word. Marcus finds his voice first. Why? Didn't you tell me? Because the world already whispers that money is virtue, and I didn't want that spell cast on my child. I wanted to raise a person, not an heir. I say, character first, options later. Entitlement grows in quiet corners. I refused to water it. I let him mow lawns, miss buses, pay late fees once, learn boundary and budget by friction. It's not cruelty, it's inoculation. I wanted you to trust effort, not inheritance. I add, to choose kindness without calculating audience. Veronica hears indictment where I intend instruction. Franklin hears threat where I offer a map. Simone's gaze softens. She recognizes a hunger she never named. I look at Marcus and see the man he built without my bank account as scaffolding. He nods, shame loosening its grip, pride replacing it one vertebra at a time. I wanted you free. I finish. Freedom hates allowances with fine print. Simone's voice arrives softer than the table deserves. Then, why live so simply? Because spectacle charges interest. Because privacy is a currency that appreciates if you don't spend it. Simplicity keeps me honest. I say, it's how I hear myself in loud rooms. I don't need clothes to announce what outcomes will report. Later, I don't need a car to compensate for a direction I already own. Minimalism isn't punishment, it's precision. I keep what serves. I add, I release what shows off. Simone's shoulders drop a fraction, like her body recognizes a truth before her mind does. Veronica calls it austerity in her head. I see the word form and let it die there. Franklin mislabels it frugality. He's half right. Frugality is a tool. But this is strategy. If I'm hard to price, I say, I'm harder to purchase. Simone nods, almost smiling. She recognizes a life not curated for strangers' eyes. She recognizes relief. I reach into my canvas bag, the one this table decided was a confession, and place a black corporate card on the linen like a period. No flourish. Dinner's on me, I say. And the phrase carries a weight the waiter's trays envy. Consider it an exercise in the kind of courtesy money can't teach. Veronica stares at the card as if it might declare itself counterfeit, out of shame. Franklin performs a shrug he hopes reads nonchalant. Marcus whispers, Mom, a syllable full of new map. Simone studies the embossed letters as if they're a riddle about value. I do not gloat. Gloating is cheap and ruins the experiment. I am teaching the room something the room resists. Generosity can be quiet and unpunishing. The card is not a flex, it's a mirror angled correctly. They've been measuring me with receipts all evening. I offer one they can't process. The waiter takes it with a nod that feels like respect, not fear. The waiter returns not to me, but to Franklin carrying a discreet apology. "I'm sorry, sir. Your card was declined." The word lands like a church bell on a Tuesday. Veronica blinks hard, as if she can edit reality by refusing to focus. Franklin laughs a small, brittle sound. "That's impossible," he says, the favorite adverb of men who never check their own limits. "Run it again." The waiter retreats to negotiate with a machine that is excellent at telling unflattering truths. Marcus stares at his father-in-law as if witnessing gravity forget how to work. Simone's hand finds air and doesn't settle. I say nothing. Empathy takes discipline. I practice it now. Declines happen, but some declines arrive with curriculum. Veronica's cheeks climb toward a color money usually prevents. My water tastes like fairness. The room leans in, hungry. Cruel rooms love spectacle. I refuse to feed it. I lower my gaze and let the bell finish ringing. The waiter's return has the grace of a surgeon with bad news. This one as well, sir. Franklin's second card offers resistance instead of credit. Machines are stubborn when they're honest. He reaches for explanations, travel alerts, bank errors, a clerical ghost, possible, also poetic. There are malfunctions money can't bully humility. For instance, Veronica whispers to the tablecloth like it might co-sign her dignity. Simone closes her eyes and sees her future, asking different questions. Marcus breathes, counts, chooses not to smirk. I keep my face a steady coastline. "Would you like us to split the check?" the waiter asks. Brave and exact. "No," I answer, calm and final. Declines don't scandalize me. I grew up knowing that affordability and worth are not cousins. But something else is declining here, authority without kindness. It's educational to watch. Franklin nods, stuck in the moment's amber, for the first time tonight. The gold on his wrist looks heavy instead of bright. I set the Amex Centurion down the way a nurse sets a glass of water necessary. Not theatrical. The card is metal, cool against skin. But what warms the room is everything. It isn't a threat, a boast, a blade. "Try this," I tell the waiter, and he does, quick as a thought. Approved. 2 syllables, a clean horizon. Simone watches the transaction like a parable. Veronica stares at the table as if humility might bloom there if she glares hard enough. Franklin's throat clicks. Marcus leans back and finds his spine. I don't narrate benefits or annual fees. I don't tally miles or lounge access. The only access I care about is to who people are when the audience leaves. "Thank you," I tell the waiter, and mean it. He nods with the relief of a man who knows chaos when he smells it and appreciates order that doesn't shout. Metal sings. I won't. I have other instruments tonight. The receipt rests on the table like a verdict, quiet, precise, signed. I slide it back to the waiter with a tip that remembers every kindness the room forgot. Then I look at the 4 faces that have been grading me since hello. Money doesn't buy class. I say, not unkind, it buys volume. It amplifies what's already inside. On some people, money turns decency into reach. On others, it turns insecurity into orchestra. If you want respect, try respect. If you want family, stop negotiating for it. Veronica opens her mouth and meets a wall of her own making. Franklin stares at a point only he can lose. Simone's eyes shine with new inventory of herself, of us, of how to build without leashes. Marcus reaches for my hand under the table, and I let him find it, outside. The city keeps being itself. Inside, something unclenches. The bill is paid. The lesson isn't, not yet. We step out, and the restaurant's gold dissolves into honest dark. The door hushes shut behind us like a secret, relieved to be told. Street air rinses the starch from my lungs. The city blinks unimpressed, merciful. I feel lighter by the exact weight of every unsaid apology I didn't owe. Marcus walks beside me, hands in pockets. A boy and a man stitched together by shock and pride. I don't rehearse what just happened. I don't harvest it for victory. Truth isn't a trophy, it's a release valve. The neon hums, a siren writes a red parenthesis 2 blocks away. My pulse returns to its proper house. You okay? He asks. Better than, I say, and mean it. When you stop renting your peace to other people's comfort, your spine remembers its job. I hail a cab. He reaches for the door, gentle, deliberate. I let him hold it, not because I need help, but because love likes small honors. The driver's name tag says Harris. His radio murmurs old songs that know the words to my bones. Lemon cleaner and winter live in the upholstery. He glances at me in the mirror once and decides to trust me with silence. 2 traffic lights later, he tries a sentence like a foot in shallow water. Rough crowd. I smile without teeth. Expensive, I say. He nods as if that explains the human condition. Blocks slip past, shop fronts pose. A couple argues in choreography. A dog drags a man into joy. You look calm, he says. People only look like that when they said what they needed to. I laugh, a small, grateful thing. Peace, he adds, is what truth sounds like after... I tip my head, filing it under wisdom. He doesn't ask for details. I don't donate them. Companionship is sometimes the grace of being uncurious. When he drops me off, his good night lands like a benediction. My apartment exhales when I turn the key. Lights up, kettle on, shoes off rituals that never judge. The phone buzzes with a tenderness I'd recognize. In a hurricane, home safe, Marcus writes. Yes, I answer, resting. 3 dots bloom, hesitate, resolve. I love you, simple, costly, perfect. I love you always, I send back, and the word always arrives like furniture that finally belongs. I don't add advice or warnings. The night already taught him what lectures dilute. I pour tea and let the steam explain quiet to my face. On the table, the napkin I brought home still folded sharp, reminds me I didn't flinch. Outside, someone laughs too loud. Upstairs, pipes gossip. I text him one more sentence. Proud of you, he replies, working on being worth it. You already are. I type, then delete it. He should learn to tell himself. I drink, I breathe, I let victory pass unannounced. Sun finds my curtains and drafts me into day. Coffee, notebook, window the trifecta. Marcus calls, voice rough like a road just plowed. He went back into that house of mirrors and broke none. He only stopped believing them. He told Veronica and Franklin the terms, no purchases disguised as love. No commentary on our budget, no leashes wrapped in bows. Visits by invitation, not obligation. Advice on request, not reflex. I spoke slower than I felt, he says, so they couldn't pretend confusion. Veronica cried performance tears, then accused him of betrayal. Franklin called it hysteria, promised consequences that sounded like weather reports from a country we don't live in anymore. I didn't shout. Marcus says, I didn't apologize. I hear something unlatch in him. Good, I say. Boundaries are kindnesses with backbones. He exhales a laugh. It felt like treason to the past. He admits, it is, I say. But loyalty to your future. In his telling, Simone begins as a whisper and becomes a bell. First, she tries to smooth the scene, then stops mid-sentence, startled by her own spine. Enough, she tells her parents, a word she's never learned to conjugate in their dialect. She names what happened at dinner without embroidery, the small cuts, the bought silence, the valuation of a woman by her wardrobe. She cries, yes, but she doesn't fold. Exact tears, like rain that knows where it's going. I'm ashamed, she says, and then, braver, I'm done. Veronica calls her ungrateful. Franklin calls her manipulated. Simone calls herself awake. She tells them love is not a subscription service with penalties for cancellation. If they want access, they'll have to arrive unarmed, No invoices, no auditions. Marcus doesn't rescue her. He stands beside her, the kind of defense you can lean on without sagging. When the call ends, my chest feels larger than its measurements. Predictably, Veronica and Franklin detonate in familiar colors, wounded pride dressed as moral clarity, affection wearing a judge's robe. After all we've done, they chorus the national anthem of control. Franklin says he'll revisit his will, as if inheritance is oxygen we'll miss. Veronica weaponizes concern. You're ruining your marriage, and calls our honesty cruel. I translate out loud to Marcus when people lose the tool they've always used. They call any other language violence. He laughs, a tired, relieved sound. We talk about consequences, fewer invitations. Colder holidays, rumor campaigns at family gatherings. Fine. Frost teaches you which plants are hardy. They'll say you turned me against them. He warns. Say I turned you toward yourself. I counter, we end the call not triumphant but aligned. Anger from them is weather, not fate. Our job is coats and compass. We have both. Outside, the day proceeds, uninterested in our melodrama, sane and instructive. Later, when his courage starts to inventory its bruises, he calls again. Did I go too far, he asks, the way a man asks after finally not being small. No, I say. You went as far as pretending had kept you from... I tell him freedom doesn't begin with money. It begins when you stop borrowing your peace from people who charge interest. I remind him generosity is clean when it arrives without a leash. Otherwise, it's credit disguised. Choose the life that costs least in self-respect. I say, everything else is marked up. He breathes. We plan practicals, holidays, off-site, limits on financial entanglement, scripts for common manipulations. He laughs at the idea of scripts until I give him 3 sentences, then he understands. Boundary is love with doors and rules. I tell him, open to the kind, locked to the careless, barred to the cruel. He repeats it back, not perfectly perfect enough. I go outside with no destination and every permission. The bakery exhales warm breath. A kid chases a pigeon into philosophy. A woman argues kindly with a plant in a windowsill. I pass a thrift store and feel seen. Ordinary is a cathedral if you stop trying to buy pews. I count my wealth and don't need my bank, the key that fits my door, knees that still negotiate stairs, a job that funds other people's grocery lists, a son who prefers truth to applause. The park throws sunlight like confetti. A bench volunteers its history. I sit, and the world minds its business, a rare luxury. People parade their Sundays without pennants, t-shirts, strollers, hands. Rich is not more, rich is enough. Kept and savored. My phone stays quiet by design. If you never practice unreachability, you'll forget where you end and requests begin. I breathe until breathing is the only agenda I respect. She arrives with a paper bag and an authority that needs no microphone. 80-something, maybe, wrapped in wool and weather, eyes like small, bright rules. Beautiful day, she declares, distributing bread to birds with socialist efficiency. I agree, and we fall into an easy nonchalance. People, she says, invent ladders to climb over each other. Birds invented wings. We watch a greedy pigeon chase crumbs while 2 others wait for gravity to share. See, she smiles. No pedigree, no resume. They just eat, then fly. I tell her I spent last night in a room where pedigree auditioned for sainthood. She nods like she's heard every plot before. Kindness, she says, is cheaper and richer than whatever they sell in those windows. The pigeons lift all at once, a gray applause. Take care of your quiet, she adds, standing. It's where the right words grow. When she leaves, the bench keeps her warmth a minute longer. That afternoon, my phone blinks an unadorned question. May I see you? No defense brief, no sentence trying to barter absolution, just the respect of asking. I let 3 days pass on purpose. Apologies need time to shed performance. On the 3rd day, I say yes, and the yes feels like a door that opens to a room with chairs. She arrives without scaffolding, no makeup's apology, no jewelry's alibi, jeans, a plain top, hair pulled back into honesty. At the threshold, her face finds humility's shape. "Thank you for letting me come," she says. I pour tea. We sit. Silence arrives first, behaves well, makes room for the right nouns. "I was wrong," she begins, "and I was scared to be different from them." No excuses, only architecture. I listen with the kind of attention that doesn't interrupt. Some bridges aren't built, they're allowed. We begin to allow one. She tells me the biography of her parents' hunger dirt floor beginnings. Rationed light, a math of survival that's solved for never again. She makes no saints and no villains, she makes context. They believe money is air, she says, and anyone who won't breathe it is ungrateful. Her voice breaks on the tenderness of defending and dissenting at once. I don't argue with the past. I refuse to let it bully the present. Understanding is not abdication. I say, you can honor the struggle that made them and still refuse the weapon it became. We talk in verbs limit, choose, pause, decline. I give her small sentences that fit in a pocket. No is a full sentence. I'll get back to you. That doesn't work for us. She writes them down like phone numbers she might need at midnight. You're not punishing them, I add. You're protecting the part of you money can't rent. Teach me how to be rich without performing it, she says. The rarest request in a noisy age. I tell her to start with audits of time. Attention, motives, before buying. Ask who you're trying to persuade. Before posting, ask why your piece should pay admission. Build a portfolio of habits that compound. Read more than you display. Give more than you announce. Save before you celebrate. Rest before you react. Curate friendships that don't invoice. Declutter rooms until your values have walking space. Spend on usefulness, not applause. Tip with eye contact. Learn to leave without flinching. And when I forget, she asks, "You will," I say. Then forgive quickly, recalibrate, and keep your compass where other people keep their mirrors. She nods like a student who finally likes the class. What if they cut me off? Then you're free, I answer, and free is the salary that never stops. We sketch a future without inheritance as a leash. If you have children, I tell her, teach them the price of things last and the value of people first. Let them earn small, fail small, fix small. Give them chores that produce competence, not resentment. Model apologies with receipts change. Model boundaries with grace doors, not moats. Celebrate effort so outcomes don't own them. Keep holidays cheap and affection expensive in the right ways. Time, rituals, jokes that survive the dishwasher. Share your money like a tool to lift, to mend, to build. Keep some secret sacred account numbers, arguments, pain that isn't ready to teach yet. And if I stumble, she asks, then your children learn that love survives imperfect teachers. She writes, promise where fear used to sit. I walk her to the door. The hallway smells like old paint and new resolve. We hug like people who intend to be different. Evening paints my window with a generosity it never invoices. The city does its chores, lights on, blinds down. Dinners rehearse forgiveness. I stand with tea and measure myself against nothing, not a ledger, not an audience, not a mirror that lies. I don't have to pretend poor anymore to find out who is. I don't have to perform rich to know I am. The room holds me like a hand that learned restraint. I think about all the doors money can open, and how few of them matter if your heart refuses entry. My phone sleeps, my shoes rest, my breath clocks in for the night shift, steady, unionized. Peace isn't flashy. It doesn't even photograph well. It's a chair that fits, a key that turns, a story that doesn't need retelling to stay true. I close the curtains, not against the world, but for myself. Enough. I earned this quiet. I intend to keep it. I leave the mug to warm the table and take inventory one last time, the canvas bag by the door. The bills paid without ceremony. The quiet that answers when I call it by name. Tonight didn't crown me, it calibrated me. I learned which voices deserve chairs and which only deserve the hallway. I learned that generosity without strings is lighter than air, and that some refusals are a kind of giving back to yourself, to your future, to anyone watching for permission. Marcus is watching. Simone is too. We won't fix a family in a weekend, but we did fix a measurement worth no longer tallied in receipts. Holidays will look different, smaller tables, bigger honesty, fewer gifts wrapped in obligation, more bread passed without keeping score. If apologies come, we'll weigh them by change, not volume. If they don't, we'll proceed anyway. I want an ordinary life that keeps its promise, work done well. Love spoken plainly, rooms where no one is priced. When doubt returns, and it will, I'll read the notes I wrote on the inside of my ribs. Speak low, stand straight, pay attention, pay fairly, pay with dignity first. Then I'll put on my shoes, take my same old bag, and go about the business of being exactly enough. Before the lamp clicks off, I send a single text to Marcus Sleep. Tomorrow needs both of us rested. He replies, yes, Mom. 2 words paid in full. I turn the room to dark and keep what I've earned. Steam threads up from my cup, the little weather of a life I chose. No trophies here, just a chair that fits and a room that tells the truth back. Softly, I didn't win tonight. I released a weight. The experiment wasn't about money, it was about measurement. Their ruler snapped, mine held. Money is a tool useful, obedient, mute. Dignity is the destination. Love is the only tender that never counterfeits. I think of the canvas bag, the black card, the bell of that decline, the pigeons that needed no pedigree to fly. I think of Marcus's yes, Simone's spine, and the door inside me that finally clicked locked and kind. Tomorrow will be ordinary on purpose, before I turn out the light. I want your story. Tell me where you're listening from, your city, your streetlight, your quiet, and tell me about the day you chose truth over glitter, boundaries over bargains. I'll be here, cup warm, comments open, counting what counts,